that these guys, they've got homes to go to. They might even have family, brothers, sisters, mothers, whatever, probably worrying about them.
I can understand people being offended by the police. I can understand people being threatened by police presence. What I couldn't understand really was the ferocity that took place.
Black kids were being purged off the streets. They were being beaten up in cells. The establishment had to acknowledge that. I stood up and I fought with them.
As far as Brixton's rioters were concerned, the night was a triumph for the whole of Britain's black community. No one knew what would happen tomorrow, but by the early hours, fighting had been replaced by partying.
I heard of a party is up near where I lived on Brixton Hill.
And everyone knew about the riot. Everybody knew about it.
Everyone had drink. Everyone had new clothes to show off.
Rings and chains and things like that, and people had new suits and things like that to wear. People celebrated and drinking champagne. There was a few off license that got raided that day as well.
I never had champagne before that night. I had a sip. The guy who had it wasn't willing to share it with everybody. He said, "Oh, you got your own drink." And the DJ had written some lyrics specifically for the occasion.
Brixton riot, a murder. Police couldn't push it little further.
Brixton riot, a murder. Brixton riot, a murder. People love the Brixton riot saying murder, murder. And it was a joyous occasion.
Across Brixton, more than 30 buildings, shops and homes were burning.
It looked good. It looked good at night time.
The sky lit up because, I mean, there's quite a few cars burning and smoke in the sky, and, you know.
It's a good picture. It's good. It's a good picture.
They decided to take us on, and this is our response.
My first thought, I wonder what happened to Brixton.
Broken windows everywhere, cars just dead. A melted policeman's helmet just lying on the road.
You felt shame in a way to say, why, that's what you did to your own community. You kind of feel shame after.
The damage caused by the rioting will cost hundreds of thousands, maybe £1 million in repair bills and compensation.
In the side streets, still closed and littered with 2 days of debris, the shopkeepers started to sort.
It was only on Sunday morning that the battle's full toll of injury and damage became clear.
The territory that, you know, they had wanted to preserve and keep from the police was now in ruins, as it were.
It was terrible. It was like a ghost town because everything was flat, and the shops where you used to go in and do your shopping, there was nothing in there to see. Everything was gone.
It was just devastation all over the place, so, you know, it was terrible, terrible.
Nearly 150 buildings were damaged or destroyed. Wreckage totaling more than £7 million.
Society had now woken up to realise, hold on, there's something happening down in this little town called Brixton, and it's going to affect the whole country.
It was the worst breakdown in law and order seen on the mainland for nearly 200 years. Britain had never seen its police officers take such a beating.
The whole world knew that we had lost control of the streets. And that's something that was very difficult to take. The rioters had won the day.
Nearly 300 police and 45 rioters had been injured. Miraculously, no one was killed.
Vengeance and war don't really justify anything.
No.
But is one thing I would say is that the riot spoke volumes for black people.
Shocking to see that what we had done. But with that, there's pride as well, that we stood up.
Is there anyone here who takes the view that what happened in the last 36 hours was a race issue?
No.
If the black community had felt the media had ignored their concerns about police brutality in the past, now journalists were queuing up to find out why local feelings had boiled over in such an extreme reaction.
I was very much a doubting Thomas about their claims, but the sheer volume of complaints from people about police behaviour could not be ignored. You could say, yes, some of them are exaggerating. You could say, yes, some of them are making it up. But they couldn't all be exaggerating and making it up.
How long can you suppress a feeling? Right? How long can you suppress a feeling, man? How long?
I think it changed our attitudes towards the black and Asian community. And I think it probably made the country as a whole wake up to the fact that there was a problem here which had to be addressed.
But on Sunday, London's police leaders weren't ready to admit their tactics might have triggered the violence and blamed political extremists.
It wasn't just locals from Brixton, but others from elsewhere had come to help, and that's why I said it wasn't spontaneous, that it was planned.
Do we look like organized people? I mean, you see everybody about it. Do we all look like organized people?
Radicalist, racist.
Yeah.
We're not racist.
We look organized?
We're not racist.
Do we?
Yeah, in Miami.
No, do we look organized?
Not to me, you don't know.
That answers your question.
Where do people...
The police still wanted to blame a lawless minority amongst the community for what had happened. Anything rather than admit that they had got it seriously wrong.
Nothing but nothing justifies what happened on Saturday night, and I cannot condemn it too strongly.
At first, the government also seemed reluctant to inspect the causes of the riot. But when Margaret Thatcher sent her Home Secretary to see for himself what had gone on in Brixton, defying all expectations, he'd ensured the riots became a turning point in British history.
He came down to have a look round, acquaint himself, see what was going on.
It's all in the name, William White Law. That was what the government was all about, white law.
Well, there was shouting went on, and one or two people, oh, that Willie White Law.
We despised him and what he represented. Thatcher and everyone despised him, hated him.
The police have, in a very difficult task, and I want to say this again and again, deserve the support of every law-abiding citizen in this country, because this country places on all its citizens that responsibility, because we ask the police to carry out these duties on our behalf.
He never went anywhere near Railton Road. He had a quick whiz around the area with the Metropolitan Commissioner at his side.
It was clear after about 10 minutes that he'd had enough.
But he got the picture. In fairness to him, he did go, he got the picture.
And he said to me, Mrs. Vellan, I think we ought to go back to Brixton Police Station.
By the time Thatcher's Home Secretary had crossed back over the river, he decided to launch a major public inquiry, to be headed by Lord Scarman.
The Home Secretary orders a one-man public inquiry into the Brixton riots, but local residents fear it won't examine their long-standing grievances.
And a national debate on race and the inner cities soon began.
Quite clearly, we've got to limit any further mass immigration into this country, and if any people wish to return to their country of ethnic origin, they should be encouraged to do so by the government.
The police should recognise that, in fact, it's not on to treat people in what seems to many blacks in Brixton as an oppressive and unjust manner, simply because...
I hope it's going to be a very quick inquiry. Lord Scarman will report, and I hope he will be very candid in the recommendations that he makes to government.
6 months later, when Lord Scarman's findings came out, they weren't what anyone expected under the party of law and order. He didn't look like a revolutionary, but Scarman's inquiry into the riots sent shockwaves through British society.
Only at £8.
For the first time in their history, he'd put the police as an institution on trial and found them guilty.
Clearly, a large degree of responsibility lay at the door of the police service. The police had got the policing of the local area wrong to the extent that they lost control.
According to Scarman, that happened because the police had lost the consent of the local community.
I think a lot of people had some pretty legitimate grievances about the way we went about our business.
Across the country, following the riots, the way the police did business would be transformed.
The police could not just police an area as they wanted, indiscriminately stopping and searching large numbers of people, for example. The only way to successfully police a community is by consent.
For the first time, the police would be compelled to consult the public and become more accountable to the communities they policed.
It was a nasty jolt to the police, but it took a long time for the smarting to wear off before the police were willing to take on those ideas.
25 years later, the lessons of Brixton are still being learnt. The police were urged to appoint more black and Asian officers and to root out racists in their ranks. The process of reform has been hard, but Brixton was the catalyst for beginning the change in race relations across Britain.
That riot was the beginning of the change, and people started to recognise that we had rights.
The riot showed everybody that if you ignore a certain community for so long, you shit on them for so long, they're going to rise up.